Hello and how you do, everybody? Oh my god, this is so damn. But what's up? So for those that know me and those that don't, I'm basically a fan of the Foamstars video game. I've been there since pretty much day one. Sadly, I wasn't around during this beta, but I happen to enjoy the game quite a bit, even when this lifespan's ending. And surprisingly, the game still has a what is that? A fan base that is still alive despite the fewer numbers. But I noticed that not a lot of people has made any tier lists, so I decided to give my own take of a tier list. So, a couple of disclaimers. One, I will only be using the characters base set, as I do not have all of the characters. What's that? Gem sets slash capabilities. Also, the prism sets, which gives characters like some kind of special buff or attributes or reduced cooldowns, basically. Also, the shot types will be something like standard types will be the only one I use because I don't have anything like the power type, the burst types, or rapid fire types that could change the character's way of shooting and attributes. Also, you might hear me talk about a lot of pros and cons, offense, defense, and other video game terms, but I'll try to simplify it as much as I can and be straightforward to the point with this as much as I can. But yeah, basically, this is coming from the character's base source, I guess you could say, rather than the other attributes that comes with the characters. And I think that's. Oh no. Also, this list has been pretty much been done on some research from other people as well, meaning that the research that I've done and observed, basically, if I ask other people about it, I see videos and other like top level plays and all that other stuff. So basically, it should be a hopefully a fair and well versed tier list that most people enjoy. And I've actually created more than one tier list. So this one that you see right here is for the versus. The other one right here would be for the squad missions. I do think the characters in this game are at their most balanced as of right now. So honestly, there are no bad characters, but I do think that there are some characters that struggle more than others. And I think most people tend to agree on that too. So this will be pretty much an approachable tier list, hopefully. And lastly, like most, this is both subjective and objective. So, while my tier list isn't the above all and all, it does come from the fact that this is based off of my own experience, but also the experience from others. So I think that this should be approachable for people. So hopefully, y'all enjoy it. Y'all don't take it with a grain of salt. But this is my approach here. And I guess we'll just begin. So there are currently. Oh, and one last thing though. Most of the characters I will put are not in order except for one, which would probably be the first character in the S rank. Every other character is pretty much can be in any order. So I'll try to tone down the bias as much as I can, but even regardless of which character I put here and there, though, this is pretty much should be a fun, fair balance, hopefully, of a tier list for sure. And I think that's pretty much about it. That's all I got to say on that note. So let's start off with the A tier. So the A tier are characters that are good, but they are basically gonna struggle a little bit more than others, and definitely going to take some effort. But with the right approach and setups, they could do some work. So for my first A tier, I'm gonna put Chloe down here. So Chloe is basically the sniper character of Foamstars. She's basically is recommended to play at a long range. Even though her sniper weapon isn't really much of a sniper per se, it's really more of like a marksman rifle, I guess you could, so to speak. So it shoots pretty fast and all that stuff. And her charge ability does a little bit more, so she could do that as well. She's also one of the only few what's that characters that can actually has an ultimate that allows her to pretty much be in air. I think she's probably like the best air mobile phone star user of the bunch, to say the least. I believe her L1 special is the charge cannon, I guess you could call it. Basically, it's a massive charge shot that could do like a decent amount of damage, and then she has a R1 ability, which summons a Bandaka home and attack people, basically track the nearest opponent. But basically, though, the idea is to play long range. But in case you wonder why she's pretty much at A and possibly at the bottom of it, it's because out of all the characters, she does the least amount of damage of the bunch. So most Foamstar characters' damage rallies about, I want to say about a good 300 plus damage or higher if you land all your shots consistently. Anything higher than 300, let's just say around 400 plus or more, are definitely damage dealers. And sadly, out of all the characters, she definitely has the lowest, with even her highest rank at about a good 200. And the other things too is that while she may be able to play at a long distance, if people get in close range against her, she's not going to be able to do much. Especially if it's characters like Agito or who's it? Jet, Ramsey, Penny, and even Soa, just for a few examples. She may have a decent matchup against someone like, I don't know, maybe Melty to an extent, but even then, Melty has things that can really keep even Chloe at bay. And even her damage is actually greater than hers, surprisingly. So Chloe is good to cover people from a long range, though. But if any character that's can challenge her at her distance or even at close range, she's not going to be able to do much in that regard. So Chloe definitely does take some work, but if people gets in her range of facility, she's not going to be doing much. Her only saving grace is probably her ultimate, but even then, though, you better hope that she doesn't deal with some characters like the Partitioner here or who else is it? Quaff guys. They pretty much can counter her. I think Jet's ultimate can counter hers. Melty's definitely, if she's in the proper range and stuff like that. I think Tonics might be one of her worst matchups, basically because of her setups and her ultimate. So, rip, of course. Drop the like. Hope you're having a great stream. I appreciate that, Angel of War. So, yeah, that's the situation here with Chloe. All right, so next I will put in A, and this may or may not. You said turn the mic up volume up for a little bit. This is the highest I can do right now. Hold on, let me see if the yeah, even my settings is up there. Let me see if I got any. Also, join the Discord channel. I'm about to say the volume is as high as I can get with this, honestly. But hold on, let me see if there's anything I could do here. Oh, I probably gotta go to the settings instead. It might be the output, though. Is it the input or is this the output? This is the input. All right, I'll turn this up too. All right, I wasn't gonna do this Discord thing yet, but I guess I could get some insights or I don't know, something of the sort. My volume, what's that? My volume for speakers was turned down. My bad. You good? Boy, wild. But that I thought it was me for a second. No, it was not me. It's gotta update again. I swear, almost every time I get on Discord, it's gotta update on the PC. Not complaining though. At least it keeps the app more active and more efficient. I guess I'll just do that there. Why not? All right, getting back to the tier list. Sorry about that. All right, so yeah, Chloe's at A. I think my next character, and I know some people's gonna give me some flack with this one. I'm gonna put Melty at B, but she's definitely higher than Chloe's for sure. So I know there's a lot of Melty players. She's the only character in the game that has a lock-on weapon. She basically could do that at close to mid range. Her damage is, I believe, tied for Ramsey as the 9th or 10th most damage dealing character in the game. But it's above 300, definitely more than Chloe's on the average, so that's for sure. So she's another ranged character, but she has a lot of coverage for hers. Let's see, I believe one of her specials is like some ice cream missiles that you can that sits in like a certain line, stuff like that.
What did I just come back to?
I'm literally talking about the characters in the tier list.
Ice cream missiles is what I just heard.
Yeah, well, the character named Melty is literally what's that? Has a text that's based off of ice cream missiles and stuff, man.
Well, didn't know that.
Yeah, but yeah, I decided to make my own tier list basically, but it's basically supposed to give at least some insights on the characters and what they could do. So you might hear some, I guess, questionable things about the characters, but that's literally based off of their lore and stuff like that.
Very questionable.
Yeah, but not the weirdest. I'll tell you that for sure. But getting back to her, she has a ice cream missile barrage that you can change during lineups, and then don't ask me why, but I believe like Unicron can send out like a barrage of orbs, ice cream orbs, that spreads around. So it's a decent approach that can be used both on the ground and in the air. Her ultimate is basically this blast beam. I forgot the name of it itself. Hold on. It's called the Focus Beam Tasting. But basically, it's a long range move. You can pretty much move it, and it does a decent amount of damage. I think it's pretty much one of the good ultimates in the game, but it's definitely one of the more high risk, high rewards because she can get punished when the beam is charging and while it's attacking too. So basically, if you get in range of this character, she's pretty much done for. So, for those who's wondering why I put her down here as well, it's because while her range is definitely better than Chloe's, and she does a little bit more, like hers, once people can get into the facility of this character's range, she's not going to be able to do much. And there's certain characters that can out-damage her too, so she's pretty much in the worst case scenario when that happens. I think she fares a little bit better in some cases, but she definitely struggles when it comes to like certain ranges, and also I think she's pretty much level dependent too. Like I think she's better in most of the areas with a few closing spaces rather than the areas that has closing spaces but a few open spots. So you definitely want to utilize her in range, but also areas that has openings, but at least she could be around where somewhere that she could be in a close spot with too. So I got one more for the A tier, and this may or may not be a hit or miss for some people. But I'm gonna get this one to the Bartisitor here. So the Bartisitor is basically an environmental control character. Basically, the idea of him is to basically cover the ground as much as you can to give your team mobility and height advantage. His weapon, surprisingly, allows him to basically become the second most damage dealing character in the game. So he's definitely got good damage on his side. His abilities are good in terms of leveling the field, and his ult is actually pretty good too, at least on the paper. But at the exact same time, like Melty's, he's also at risk if he doesn't find a good spot to utilize it, because if he uses it in the open, he gets punished for it. If he's not in the open when he's using his ultimate, he's good, but you basically want to take advantage of positioning, because that's another thing he also seemed to play a good role in. Despite the good damage and the crowd control, he does have a few counters that could pretty much put him in a predicament. If I could think of more ways why he might be more useful than the bad, I probably would have put him in the situational tier, but I do think that despite the advantages that he can give, and he does have great damage, Ravebreaker, I think in particular, counters him. He basically has stuff that can literally level the advantages that the Participator give, and even someone like Jet as well, that also could change that as well. And even Penny, I believe, is one of his counters, mainly because of her ultimate in particular is meant for like breaching rather than attacking, and can even level certain ults as well. Yeah, he has some good stuff, and if there was more ways to utilize him, I probably would switch it up and put him in the situational tier, or even maybe S tier, but low S or anywhere in the situational would probably be good for him right now. Yeah, he's not, again, none of these characters in A are bad, but they definitely take more effort, and I think they have counters that heavily hurts them more than allows them to pretty much stand on foot, basically. But he's definitely a good character if you're not going against any of his counters that can level the field, but if they got characters that can pretty much challenge that, he's in for worse. So situational tiers, these characters are game changers. They can either help you win some really good games, or they can basically screw you over and end up with some really bad games. But these characters are situational picks based on the person's skills and I guess team composition and pretty much utilizing the character's full potential. There's only three for the situational tiers. Like I said, they can either change for better or worse. This is no particular order. So I would say for my first situational tier, I'm gonna get this to Bubble. Bubble is basically the crowd control tank, I guess you could say. His Gatling gun, I believe, puts him as the third highest DPS character in the game. But his two abilities, which are really good, I believe his L1 sends out like a barrage of lions with shields, and they go in like in three separate directions. Can be used on both the ground and the air. I think it's definitely one of the best approaches for this character and for his team. Party Blast is also good because it can launch as a surprise attack. Also, it cancels his cooldown for his Gatling gun too, and if you're already in like some golden state with the Gatling gun, you basically can become more mobile with it. And then his ultimate is good if you're like in a straightforward directional kind of character, but it does leave him open for like side attacks and back attacks basically. Overall, he's basically a character that can help stand on ground or like in linear directions basically. But like from side to side or other exploits, he's definitely is going to have a tough time. But I think it all depends on the team compositions and I guess the stage, but also depends on what you're playing in as well. Because in modes like Rubber Duck Party and Jackpot Scramble, he's definitely really solid with those. Smash the Stars or Happy Bass Survival is a hit or miss, honestly. One good thing about his ult is that despite the fact it's really meant for a more linear approach, he can dodge it by using the surfboard mobility. So it definitely has its usage. Basically, your idea for Bubble is to play pretty much, I want to say at least at medium range at best. You're basically providing team coverage. Because some teams do, yeah, some members do not have like good defensive options. So he definitely comes in clutch with that for sure. His defensive and coverage can be either a great thing for some, but also a setback for others because he's not as mobile as some of the other characters in this. But like I say, he's not a horrible character, but he's not like too great. But then again, though, he could be, although depending on the composition of things. I think Bubble is definitely a good character if the situation calls for it. So Rubber Duck Party and Happy Bass Survival, not Happy Bass Survival, but Jackpot Scramble are definitely like the go-to picks when it comes to this character. But everything else, though, I say use him, but use him carefully in case your team lacks certain coverage options. So for the second situational tier, I'm gonna give this to Agito. And this character, my goodness, I was originally gonna put him in the A rank, but after going against some other Gito players and I think hearing that Agito is actually pretty decent at the high ranks, Agito is pretty lethal with the right situation. So, Agito is a shotgun user. Um, he is surprised. Well, I don't know sure if this is surprisingly or not, but interestingly enough, to say the least, he does the most damage in the entire game if he's in close range. Um, Basically, if he's in close distance, two shots with his shotgun can instantly what's it chill somebody out in a match. That's another way of saying you could KO somebody doing that. Um, and I think from medium to long range, it takes about a good 3 to 4 shots. But he's basically a damage dealing character. His L1 ability, if I'm not mistaken, allows him to basically sink inside the bubble foam and move around. He's faster, basically, if it's in the team's foam, rather than his enemy's foam. And he's harder to hit in this. He also has a shuriken, which can help with certain situations, but I don't see too much usage for that since it's usually avoidable in most cases. And then there's his ultimate. His ultimate is pretty dangerous. Basically, is a giant shot that can home the nearest opponent or whatever it targets, and it'll keep chasing up until it hits a certain distance. So it is avoidable, but it's hard to shake off, especially with your characters that's like really tanky or slow moving. What's it? And it also needs a trail that you could use to move around and like get into certain areas faster. Although it doesn't leave like a whole bunch. Basically, Agito's idea of a character is mobile assassination. Basically, you want to sneak attack your opponents, get in close range, and take them down as quick as possible. Do be careful, however, because there are characters that can outrange him if they're smart enough to keep a distance. Although it's a bit trickier with him because some Agito players at the right hands can actually take advantage of situations like that. Because as long as they land all their shots within the 2-3 hit damage ratio, he can pretty much melt them instantly. But yeah, he's really great at close combat and sneak attacks. I think he's good at almost any stage that allows him to basically be mobile, basically. But if characters can pretty much outrange him and he can't do much within that range, he's pretty much screwed. So I think he has more valuable than Bublo in terms of mobility. But when it comes to like being stationary or being at a distance, Bublo actually handles that better because of his defensive and coverage options. But at the right hands, though, Agito is the idea to start initiating damage or to finish people off. And you better pray to God that you're a character that can handle him, because if you're not, he's pretty much got you as his prey. Pun intended. Anyway, last character for situational, and I know this is going to be a major hit or miss for a lot of people, me included, but I'm going to give this to Jet. Jet is one of the all-range characters. Basically, all of his tools fit pretty much in every situation. He is another shotgun user as well. He does take a bit more damage. No, he does do a little bit more damage. He also take, I think, quite a bit of damage too. I'm not sure if it's because of the perks given to him or not, but even without that, though, he is pretty lethal. Basically, his primary weapon, I think, does the, what is it? I think it's the second lowest damage, surprisingly. But what makes up for it is the fact that he has a lot of options to attack with his weapon. You can basically use it like a shotgun, or you can use it as a charge attack, which he has 2 levels. I think the second level is a charge orb that launches at opponents, and then it's like a really large one. I think it's a little bit slower though, but it does a decent amount of damage. So you kind of want to combine shots with that. His L1 is a cosmic dive, which is good to like get it in and out of situations, but it also can be used as a counterattack. I believe if you press the, you also can move a little bit too with it. And if you land, no wait, if you press it again, you can automatically land. And I think launches like a foam attack that can damage enemies within the range. So yeah, he has good tools. He does have a R1 special known as the Jet Vacuum Spear, which sucks up the foam basically, which can be used as a like a neutral ground coverage and environmental change advantage, depending on who could quickly, I guess, take control of ground in general. But out of all things, though, Galactic Bubble Shield is probably one of the biggest game changer ultimates in the game. When he creates the shield, it produces a certain amount of foam for you and his team. But more importantly, once inside the shield, you basically have unlimited ammo and shots. So you do not run out of anything. And that's where he does the most damage at, because not only the shield can what's that? Not only the shield can reject certain projectiles, although there are certain ultimates can get through that. But basically, you and your team can do pretty much as much shooting as you can, as long as y'all inside the shield, covering each other's strengths and weaknesses. Now, the negative with that, however, is the fact that people can walk inside of it and take advantage of that. And like I said, there are certain ultimates, such as the I believe the Partitioner's ultimate can get through that. I believe Meltius can get with that. So I think he's one of those characters where he counters the roster, but the roster counters him, and it's very situational with him. He's a jack of all trades despite being a shotgun user, but it all depends on who you're working with, who you're playing as, the stage, and I guess what you're playing as well. He's a great character. He was originally going to be one of my starting picks, but I had another character that actually took over. He's a really solid choice. Honestly, I probably would have put him in S, but he does have his counters that could put him in a very debatable situation. And I don't know. I guess if the counters were more in their favor than his, he probably would be at A. But I strongly think that he's definitely one of the. I think he's a good, well-rounded character that can either produce the best game plays or the worst. And now we got the best for the best. I think these are like most likely really good, solid S rank characters that definitely has more pros than cons. These characters are pretty much good about in every area of the game, really, and have pretty much very little to no weaknesses, in my honest opinion. And even if they did have a particular counter or so, I think they have more pros of their attributes that favor them in the most case scenario. So that's why they're up there. And for a disclaimer, only one character is a definitive S rank in my book, but the other characters from 2 through 6 are basically can be in any order. So it may or may not be a little biased on who I put on here, but these characters are really strong and can really do some work. All right, so going into the number 6 spot for S rank, I'm gonna put Ravebreaker up here. Ravebreaker is possibly one of the best counterpick characters in the game. He's definitely an environmental control character, but he's more of a sabotage than anything. He's also an assassination character like Agito, but he could do it with range. Honestly, I think he's definitely one of the better characters that can actually slow down characters like Agito if you know how to set up properly. So his damage wise, and I'm referring to the primary attacks as well, just their base guns, but his primary weapon I think does the sixth highest damage in the game. So definitely one of the good ones. I think it's like 400 plus. I think 402 is the highest. Although there is some inconsistencies with him with his shots, but at most he could do like at least around 400. Like the lowest like 390, I believe. But it's good damage nonetheless in his case. His L1 ability allows him to move around in the foam for like mobility and getaway options. He can be hitting it similar to Agito's, but it also makes him a tough target to hit as well. Let's see, and then his R1, I believe, is called the decontamination. Basically, he could throw a mine, which is the shape of a mole, and if you cover it with foam soap or whatever you want to call it, you can basically camouflage it. Basically, now if the enemy team know where it's at, they can shoot it. So you want to be kind of smart with it, but if you take advantage of the chaos and just throw it out there, these moles can actually do something to the enemy's teams. I think these days can take advantage of the chaos of whatever is going on. He's pretty solid, like I said, in pretty much in everything. He's basically a good sabotage, especially against the Partitioner, mainly because he can use the enemy's foam to an advantage, even if it does slow him down. But then he has the ultimate, which honestly is pretty much the most controversial one in the game, mainly because it puts everybody in a neutral state. But basically what it does is, it's called The Party's Over, by the way. But basically it absorbs all the foam for both the enemies and allies. It doesn't do damage to anybody, but it basically puts everybody in a neutral state. So it can give either you or your team a fighting chance and change the situation, or it can put them in a bad situation. It does cover a lot of space, so do be careful when using this ultimate, because, like I said, anybody can take advantage of this, and it puts everybody in a neutral state. So this is basically more of a gambling ultimate. He doesn't really have a lot of counters I can think of. I mean, there are characters that can challenge him, but he's definitely basically this sabotage character in this game. What's up? Hi, I might live stream later on tonight. Okay, what's up, Connor? But yeah, Raybreaker is really a solid pick. He's definitely a good character to use to sabotage approaches and take advantage of the field. I think he's really strong in that area for sure. So for the next one, I will put Quaff Guy here. I'm actually going to put him over here behind Raybreaker, mainly because I think Raybreaker has a few more options that can sabotage his approach, but Quackeye has definitely got some stuff going on. There's a plenty of people that like this character. Basically, imagine playing as the Melty character without the auto aim, but you have basically a rocket missile that's basically the size of a afro, does more damage than most of the characters in the game, except for a few, and it actually does. It actually has great speed, and I think it has a little bit of a tracking. I don't think so, but it definitely does more. But it does require good aim. But Quaff Guy, I believe, has the fourth highest damage, but it does more than most of the characters. Ravebreaker outbeats him, I think, by a few. Or does it? No, it's a Quaff Guy has more damage. No, I take that back. Quaff Guy has more damage than him, but Raybreaker has ways to deal with him in the most case scenarios. Although there are a few times that Quaff Guy can deal with him if he's in like close to medium range. So I think it's really more of a rock paper scissors between the two. I don't really exactly have a perfect matchmaking statistics on who beats who on the most likely scenario, but I would say on the now and then though, or the ones I can say it's guaranteed. I would say that for sure. But Qual Guy is basically melty, but takes skills. He's really good at dealing damage. Like I said, he's the fourth highest in terms of damage. Raybreaker's the sixth, but Raybreaker still does good damage overall. He's basically a mobile heavy hitter, basically. He covers areas with hard hitting damage. I would say him and Melty teaming up can be pretty lethal. Since her stuff can like track and annoy people, and he's basically be there to finish people off with his damage. He's basically has moves that makes him mobile, like the Quaff Dive, which is a dash attack that can launch you forward and pretty much make you mobile on the ground. You can, I think, press it again to launch yourself up and do like a splat attack that can do good damage as well. What else? Really good mobile too. What's that? Cough Hopper. Basically, his dog plays as a bouncer of some sort. You can jump on to refill ammo. And I believe there's a combo with the dash and hopper that does a lot. But yeah, he's really like an aggressive damage dealer. Basically, he's really good against a good portion of the roster. I don't know what holds him back. I guess if I had to pick a setback, it's characters that can either challenge him at range or those that can deal with him in close range mobility and on their side. I think anyone that has greater mobility could possibly challenge him. Fox, check Discord, the number wall. I'll check that a little bit. But yeah, he's pretty solid. His ultimate is definitely a good ultimate if you throw it at a good distance. It's called Bust a Move, which produces like a huge light that covers an area. If you're trapped in that light, you basically are forced to dance. The only way out of it is to your teammates that has not been into that light has to like dash into you by surf it towards you, basically. But if you're stuck in that and the enemy team takes advantage of that, you're pretty much done for. Your teammates still have a chance to save you, but if they're not around, it's a guarantee. His ultimates definitely had a couple of clutch game-changer moments for sure, but I think it's been used for more good scenarios and stuff like that. It also does cover like a good large amount of ground coverage, so his ult definitely has more pros and cons, that's for sure. Basically, the idea to use Quaff Guy is basically to provide as much damage as you can for your team. I guess be aggressive as you can. He's basically like a Gita with a launcher. And like I said, he's melty without the without the lock on capabilities, but he definitely takes about skills and stuff like that, which is funny because I don't even think he's the hardest character to learn, but he's definitely good in the most case scenarios. But yeah, he's a solid pick though, for sure. Moving forward, the next pick, and this may surprise a couple of people as well, I'm gonna give this to Tonix. Tonix is an interesting character, and the reason for this is she isn't just a setup character or a zoning character, she's the zoning character. Basically, her zoning and her zoning and setups makes her pretty much one of the most lethal characters in the game. Especially something like Rubber Duck Party or Smash the Stars, depending on the stage. She's also good at Happy Bad Survival and Jackpot Scramble, but she's really solid if you're really good at setting up. Her damage, I believe it's the 7th, but she's in like the 400 plus. I believe just slightly, but she's up there in that. Her primary weapon can also be used as a charge shot, which does more, I think, as a single shot. But in terms of like overall damage, isn't too crazy, but it's really solid. But her tools, like the Mr. Fuzzy Turret 3, can send like large orbs of foam at you and can even. Oh wait, I'm looking at the. No, is it that? Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, and it covers a lot of ground too. So yeah, it shoots large of orbs of foam, locks on the targets if they're into the facility, and it covers a large ground, which can help teams push forward if needed. What's that? And then the Mr. Bouncy Bubble is basically a thing that chases down the nearest opponent. If you hold down the button, you can actually aim it at a certain location. But aside from all of that, though, she's a really good zoner. I think she pretty much counters even some of the best distance characters, such as Melty, Chloe. I guess even can challenge Quaff God to a certain extent too, even Bartisitor as well. She pretty much took advantage of environmental control with her setups. And then there's King Blaster 13. Now, this move is avoidable in the most case scenario, but it does have its advantages. It locks onto like the nearest opponent. And while the move can be avoidable, if the teammates take notes of where the last enemy teams is at because of the lock on, they can push and take advantage of that. Aside from that, the foam that it produces also covers a lot of coverage as well. I think it can shoot up to like 3 times though, but it definitely has its benefits. I think the machine itself can't be destroyed, and I think getting hit by it itself can also do damage. But yeah, the idea is to pretty much play at a distance. But since she can play at about nearly every distance, with her zonings and setups, which she also requires to be that kind of character too. She requires to have a good setup. She really can be a game changer on a positive note more than a negative. She does get in trouble when people can be at the facility of her range at close distance or can make an offensive approach. So if characters like Agito basically gets in range, she's pretty much screwed. But if her setups does comes in clutch, she can pretty much block him off. But she would definitely have trouble with characters like him, for example. Soa, Ramsey, Penny, and a few other characters. I think even Jet could give her trouble as well. But at the same time, she can also give them trouble due to setup proper positionings. But yeah, solid pick, solid zoner, probably the zoner pick. But yeah, she's definitely a higher risk, high reward in that scenario. But I think it pays off more than what it takes away. All right, and then we have the top 3. 2 and 3 doesn't matter which one you pick. Both of these characters are equally good in about practically every situation. And honestly, if this game didn't have like the extra characters that came in after, Starry Pop or whatever the season was called at that time. I think it was the first season, or season 0 of this. But yeah, I think it was the introduction of Melty and Partistar at that time. But even without those two, and if it's just the 6, these two would be the most dominant of the two, or still is, regardless of the position you put them in. So for 2 and 3 on equal terms and just equal spots in general, I'm gonna give this to Soa and Penny. Now, I'm gonna go over Soa. Soa is basically the character you start off the game with. She's technically the beginner-friendly, close-range character, but she's a really solid pick. And as a matter of fact, I think you probably see most. I think Soa's like the most pick or one of the most picks because she's just that every character kind of pick. But she's really good though. Surprisingly though, she has Bubble Step, which is a mobility move that you can also do damage with. She could do this. What's it? She could change her direction of her movement twice, both on ground and the air. So hands down, one of the best mobility moves in the game. She also has Spike Beast, which yes, you can avoid it, but it does do a decent amount of damage. And then there's her ultimate, Gotta Crush. Basically, she's in like a giant ball, Spiky Beast, Bubble Beastie, basically, that she can run around and jump. It does pretty much a good amount of damage too, honestly. One of the damage dealer ultimates if you can land your hits. Is honestly probably one, if not. No, I wouldn't say it's the best. Can I say it's the best? It's one of the best ultimates in the game. I definitely say it's top 5 for sure, top 6 in general, but top 5, maybe top 3 even, really. You can't hurt her inside of it. The one, I guess, plus slash negative is if you're doing a lot of damage to the ultimate itself, it does knock down the duration of the ultimate, basically. And afterwards, it's pretty much, you better hope that basically your cooldowns for your moves is being refreshed about that time. Which I'm pretty sure it will be though too. But yeah, Soa, despite being a close range kind of character, she's fast, she's mobile, she's basically... Fox, check your... Catch up real quick. Alright, 79. Okay. I appreciate that, man. But yeah, she's a real solid pick though. Like, she's one of the faster characters due to her mobility. She has pretty much moves that can get her in and out of situations. She has an ultimate that's good for both offensive and defensive options. She pretty much plays just about every area of the game, honestly. There's really not really much. I think she's also one of the good characters that can challenge characters like Agito, even Jed, Bubble, and all that other stuff. She's really not a, she really has a lot more pros and cons. I don't think there's really a lot of negativity. She's a really solid pick. She's basically a beginner friendly character. But she could definitely use it at a higher player level. And now we get to Penny. Now for those that know me, Penny is my favorite character. She's also my best character. Originally it was going to be Jed, but after playing with Penny, she's basically been my solid choice since day one. Penny is the assault rifle user of Foamstars. I believe she's the only assault rifle user of Foamstars. She's also the jack of all trades character as well. I believe she's, what's it? In terms of, okay, so in terms of her primary fire, or her weapon in general, her assault rifle, she has the 5th highest DPS. Yeah, she has the 5th highest DPS in the game. She actually outdoes Ravebreaker's DPS by 3 points of damage. But they're relatively close to each other. But Penny is a more solid and mobile character in that area. But basically, though, she's basically a character that relies on range dependency, but she's well versed in a lot of areas. That makes her like a solid choice. Like Soa may be like the more popular pick of out of all the characters, but Penny is pretty much a solid pick as well. She has Penguin Squad, which basically she shoots like what's it, like 3 spray shots altogether. But they come out really fast, and it's enough shots to pretty much can almost one shot an opponent pretty much in the most case scenario. It also depends who you're going against with doing that too. But it comes out really fast, so you basically want to initiate the amount of damage with that, or you want to finish it off, basically, with that move. Really good solid pick. You can move around with it a little bit too. But the idea is to pretty much either initiate the amount of damage with it or finish your opponents up with it. The toboggan bomb basically is a move that you can launch a penguin to slide over and basically breach with it. You can knock people up in the air with it. It does produce foam that you can use to slide and move forward. Basically, she's a breaching character, but she also plays as a really good, well-versed character because, one, her being an assault rifle class, she does great damage. She has great firing range, and her reloading speed, although most of the characters' reloading speed is a hit or miss, I think hers is one of the best by default. And with the gym perks, especially at S ranks, hers is pretty solid. And then it's her ultimate. Now, interestingly enough, and I would probably have to say this too, her ultimate is probably the most exploitable of the bunch since you can see it a mile away and can avoid it. At the same time, though, I do think it's also one of the best. So I guess you could say it's definitely one of the most controversial and situational ones, depending on how it's utilized and the situation for it. It's best used to at a distance as long as it doesn't give people enough time to catch up with it. But basically, though, it's not meant to attack, even though it can be used for attack. It's basically meant to level the surface and breach through. That way, it give you and your teams the advantage to go through and attack so much coverage. So it doesn't track similarly to Agito's ultimate, but it leaves more of a trail of foam to use as a mobility option and approach better than Agito. So I think that's where the differential approaches comes in. Both of them have very good uses for the ultimates, and I think those two working together could be a solid pick as well. Yeah, but interestingly enough, Penny's probably the one character that gets countered by everybody, but she can counter everybody. That's what makes her, in my honest opinion, the jack of all trades. She has the tools to challenge everybody, but she can also lose to everybody as well. She can win most, but lose to most as well. But with the right hands, Penny is a really solid pick. I know going against that one against a player last time, though, lost because I couldn't read too much of his movement, but that's mainly due to the fact that the coverage that we had was definitely not in our favor, and had that been the case, I'd probably been able to keep up with him. But the other issue is that too he knew how to utilize the range dependency. So if I was able to be at a range that I could challenge him, I could definitely win that or even be able to challenge that. But yeah, Penny is a solid pick in about every situation. She's good at Jackpot, Scrabble. She's good at Rebel Dark. She's good at Happy Bat Survival. She's even good at Smash the Stars. So there's really not a lot of negativity with her other than the fact that she could be a chance. Now, I know you're thinking that should sound like that should be a situation tier like Jets. And like I said, with Jets is also good and possibly could be a potential S rank. But I think the fact is, one, he's a shotgun user that you can use with his charge shots and stuff like that. The negative with his is that, one, he's a tank and he's a big character, so he's suitable to take more damage, where Penny is basically a linear character and probably more mobile, so she can get away with stuff more efficiently. She's definitely probably one of the high risk, high reward characters, but she's definitely a solid pick where it matters the most, and that's pretty much damn we're everywhere. And then finally, but not the least, the one definitive character. This character's been busted since its debut. I think it was Whip Wop Hop or something like that. Don't ask me why they named these seasons the way they did, but this character was so strong. Like even after this character's nerf, this character is a real solid pick, and I'm pretty sure for those of us that plays Foamstars or even watch it knows exactly which character I'm talking about. But number one and more likely the definitive pick is Ramsey. Ramsey is basically a combination of a couple of characters. I think Ramsey is a combination of Penny, Soa, what else? Tonics, almost everybody in a way, into one character. Not exactly the copycat character, but few of the things that this character could do literally will give you a run for your money. So to start off with, Ramsey, I think, is currently right now tied for the most amount of damage with Melty. I think which is like 9th and 10th. So the damage is average, or at least almost below average, but it's still pretty decent since it's like at least 300 plus. It's more than Jet, surprisingly. But what makes up for it in Ramsey's case is the fact that one, his guns are similar to Soa's, but unlike Soa's, his can actually bounce on the ground at least once or twice, and off of walls too. So you could pull off some ricochet shots with this and take advantage of the situation as well. Also, Ramsey is the smallest character in the game, so harder to hit, and it's mobile. So Ramsey is already more difficult to deal with that because of his size. And then it's his specials. Sheeple's Chase can send out a herd of lambs, which he can use both on the ground and in the air. I think he sends about, about a good 5 or 7 at a time. And you can also change the formations too by moving left or right. So it's good for both offensively and defensively as well. And then he has Bombs Away, and I'm not making this up, that's the name of his R1 ability if I'm not mistaken. He could throw out 3 bombs, and depending on the direction, it can either go forward or backwards. If you're into the explosion itself, you can also use it as a mobility option. And you're in a free state too, so you can attack while doing this. So you have moves that can work well in both offensively and defensively. Pretty much give you mobility options, and you're in a free state. It does have a decent. What's up? It does have a decent cooldown, I think. But even then, like if you take away the cooldown, the move is got so much utility that it can definitely give those that excels in those areas a run for their money. And then there is his ultimate for any of us that plays the story mode of this game, which is the squad mission or the just mission mode in general. Ramsey was basically the main antagonist slash final boss, but none of the way you think. And basically, he has an alter ego called Dark Ramsey, which is his ultimate. Now, thank God this version of this boss is toned down, so it's a playable boss character, but that doesn't change the fact that this version of Ramsey is still lethal. Basically, he becomes bigger, but he still is able to move around pretty fast. His shots is ironically weaker, but I guess it's because the shots are bigger, and what else? His shots is bigger, and I think it covers a large amount of distance and range and coverage that it makes it tough to deal with. But that's not the only thing that makes him lethal, besides being able to move around and stuff like that. First of all, when he's in that form, he actually has an extra health bar, so you actually have to shoot him to deplete his ultimate gauge. But what really makes him lethal is his mega. What also makes him mega is his mega flares special, which is a giant damage on the time and AOE area of effect that does does a decent amount of. It was in, I think does a lot more damage than what it gives. It's basically like an anti move that counters about a good portion of the caster's approach. You can even delay like what is it your ultimate because of this move. It gets what's it gets a lot of foam too on the ground too, so your teammates can use that as an advantage. Really good in the ground, really good in the air too. You actually can do this move 5 times, believe it or not, before the transformation ends. Like I said, he is vulnerable to take damage, so if you're good enough to basically melt him down, he does he does lose his ability really quickly. But a good Ramsey knows how to be mobile and lethal, and because his ultimate allows him to do more than less, it automatically puts him as the best character in the game. Even after his nerfs, and y'all better be glad that he's not his season 5 or season 6 version of this character, because he was at his most lethal. Right now he's at his most balanced, but even then, he's a clutch character basically. So he excels at close range for sure, but he could play at a decent medium to long range because of his gun's projectile abilities to be able to go to long range. And he has the utilities to basically make him mobile. So yeah, this list is basically is for the versus. I do have a squad mission list, which is going to be used for the this is going to be the squad mission list right here. I will put a time step down for it as well later on. So compared to the versus, which are got a couple of hit or misses, this has more hits than misses for sure. So meaning that there are a lot more good characters and solid picks to use for
That
squad missions.
that test on the right side of your screen.
Yeah, I don't know why that was there, so don't ask me that.
There's a few people in the group who need that.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so moving on to the squads missions. We're gonna mix it up. We're gonna go for the best to the worst. So automatically, Ramsey's up there. His ability to pretty much use all of his tools makes him one of, if not the best character to use for squad missions. Him being a boss character is really good, especially against the other versions of Ramsey's, because there's the Ramsey of clubs, spades, diamonds, and hearts. I think diamonds or ace is one of the more difficult ones, or it could be hearts. I'm not sure, but basically those versions of Ramses are very difficult. But having this character being good for both the ground and air is a really solid pick. Tonics is going to be the second one. By the way, this is no particular order per se, but I think these two are primarily the most solid picks. Her setups with her gadgets definitely help cover ground coverage and all that other stuff. I think it has more. I think her tools has more benefits than negatives for sure. So I think it's a saving grace to have her around for that. 3 might shock a couple of people, but I think Bubbalo might actually be this good of a pick. Since most of the Bubble Beasties are pretty much going in a linear path, although there are some that could be, there are some that could go like in a curve or somewhat. He's a really good stationary character. And I would say this though, there is a stampede wave, and pray to God you have good characters that can handle that. But without question, I think him and Ramsey are the best characters for the stampede waves for sure. So he's a really good solid pick for that, and a good stationary character. The rest of the characters are pretty much Yeah, the rest of the characters from going forward are pretty much like good for like
Oh,
singling out certain enemies or certain threats, but they're good to have around. So, yeah, let's see. Soa and Penny are pretty much at the same spot. I'm gonna give Soa a little bit of a benefit of respect for this one because I think her ultimate might have more utility options than Penny, but Penny's good for breaching and slowing down enemies. So that's a solid pick. Actually, I'm gonna put Ravebreaker right up here too. He's good for sabotaging, and I think he's probably one of the best to slow down people as well. I think these are like the biggest four for. Yeah, I think these are probably like the big four for squads, honestly. But even then, though, I would say, regardless, Raybreaker's tools can be an advantage or a disadvantage. So and Penny are also good up there as well. I'm also give Jet the S tier spot because he's pretty much good for this. Although he might struggle with certain airborne enemies, his saving grace is his ultimate. It counts those. So, and not to mention being in a bubble shield also gives your teammates unlimited ammo. So, a clutch character for this mode for sure. I'm gonna give the Participator this spot as well because his ultimate is pretty good if you place it in the right positions. Also, he's really good at giving environmental coverage as well, and allows team ability an advantage as well.
what you been up to, Fox?
I'm doing the tier list. I'm almost done though. What else?
Oh, nice.
I'm gonna give this to Quaff Guy as well because his ultimate is pretty good at distracting enemies. Definitely a lot of timing, and he does good damage too. And I'm gonna give Melty's up there as well because I think Quaff Guy is good to cover in both air and ground, but I think he's more of a solid pick of a rocket launcher user on the ground. But she's definitely a good one to use in the air. So she's definitely a good solid pick in the air, but she also is pretty decent on the ground. Not the most mobile pick for ground options, but she's definitely good for air coverage, and he's good for like ground coverage. Although he could do good in the air. And then, this might hurt me a little bit though, but I don't think a lot of people would disagree with this. But Agito and Chloe are at least going to be in the A tier. Agito, being the hardest hitting character, is good for ground combat, but he has almost no options to deal with airborne enemies. He might be able to land the shots, but it's definitely going to take more than most. And yeah, let's see. It's definitely gonna take more than most, and his shotgun does do damage, but it's not like a very fast weapon to use. Like maybe the perks will be his saving grace, and I should have mentioned this as well. There's like two different kinds of perk systems, like you can do before game and end game, and I think the end game perk systems might benefit him more. But even then, though, like he can only do against so many enemies at a time. The Stampede Wave might be like his biggest struggles, unless there's a Nagito player that could pull it off, and props to whoever could do that. And for Chloe, good zoner when need to be, and I think she's definitely has usage when in the air, but on the ground she's absolutely almost useless in my honest opinion. She might have some usage, but not like the ideal usage you want. I think she's it when dealing with airborne enemies, and I guess with a Nagito on her side, that'd be a good detecting. Hi, Fox. I have a question. How do you get 200 subs? Helping a lot of people with Call of Duty Easter eggs. That's part of it. But other than that, though, I've just been playing a lot of games. But yeah, honestly, though, they do still have the usage, but it's very
Especially with the games, Especially with the games that you like playing, Fox. I think
Sometimes.
that's also a factor in it. Like, I like to play Minecraft and Call of Duty.
Yeah.
And
But
my
yeah,
hand does
I
not
think
move.
this is going to be the tier list for both the squads and yeah, this is going to be a tier list for both the squads and versus. So I guess I'm gonna save.
That sheep. Oh, there's that sheep.
I think this list should be good, and hopefully most people do agree on this. But yeah, I think this would be the definitive. Well, I want to call it a definitive tier list, but I think this would be a good solid tier list for those that want to be interested in playing this game. So this first tier
Uh,
list is for the verses, and the second one is for the squads missions. I'll try to figure out a way to post pictures of these so people can see, and I guess I guess I'll ask people about the opinions of this, but I think this is a solid choice.
but what game?
Foamstars.
Ah,
But yeah, hopefully y'all right with this. And I don't know if this becomes a popular thing, or I don't know if I take interest of it. I might do another one for a different game. I was thinking about doing Rogue Company, making some adjustments with some of the characters. But I think it's going to be pretty much more so based off of the what is that? The player that done. What's that guy's name? Was it Gecko that done the tier list for these characters? There's a couple of yeah. It was Gecko presents. Like I think the tier list is going to be based off of his, but it might have a little twist from mine. So it'll be like Aspire.
like inspired, pretty much.
Yeah, it'll be inspired by him in that aspect, or the representation of it, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I think this is a good way to end it right here. So hopefully I'll see y'all in the next video that I might be making really soon, and that'll be, of course, well, next video will be
Yeah,
another
of course.
Yeah, next video will be another live stream pretty soon. But yeah, if the tier list does become some popular thing again, I'll probably do another one, or if I'm in the mood to do another one, it'll probably be based off of Road Company for sure.